You can't just create a Facebook page and hope that people will magically come to it. You can't create a blog and just put press releases on it and hope that you're going to get a lot of readers. That's not the way things work. If you want to get the most out of social media, you have to constantly be producing interesting content so that people will come to you and say, wow, that's an interesting story. I want to continue to follow them on Facebook. I want to continue to come back to this blog day after day. And once those people come to your website, come to your blog, come to your Facebook page to read that story, then you can inspire them to take action. Then you can say, well, you read the story. What does it mean to you? Why don't you go out and do something about it? Why don't you volunteer? Why don't you start your own co-op? Why don't you join an existing co-op? So in addition to inspiring people, we had to give them a sense that they mattered. We had to give them the sense that we truly valued their participation in the campaign. So one way we did this was by giving them exclusive access to interesting things that were happening in the campaign. The most important story of the entire campaign after Obama beat Hillary Clinton was, who is Obama going to pick as his vice presidential nominee? The second most powerful man in America, who's it going to be? All of the media wanted to know. So the BBC and the New York Times and CNN and Fox, they were all calling our office every day saying, who's it going to be? Who's going to be Obama's vice presidential pick? And nobody would tell them. It was a secret. We had a plan. Instead of telling the media, we were going to tell our ordinary supporters first, right? Which was a very new idea at the time. And it made the media very angry. They said, that's not the way it works. You're supposed to tell us. We're important. We're the elites. This is how the game works. And we said, well, we created a new game. So if you want to find out who the vice president is going to be, sign up for the text message like everyone else, and we'll tell you at the same time that we tell our ordinary supporters. So this is the text message that we sent out at 3 a.m. Notifying people that Joe Biden would be the vice presidential nominee. And by the way, it was also a very effective way to build our list. We were able to get 2 million more people signed up for our text message program, and we could follow up with them and ask them to volunteer and donate. So it was a very effective strategy. We also did something where we really treated our supporters like high-level strategists. I'm not going to play this video because I don't have a lot of time, but this is David Plouffe. Right now he's the senior advisor in the White House, but during the campaign, he was the manager of the campaign. Other than Barack and Joe Biden, he was the most important person on the campaign. He also famously refused to speak with reporters. He just was shy, but he also didn't want to he felt like it was a waste of time to give interviews to reporters. And it made them angry, it made them annoyed. But he did, every 2 weeks he would give an address to our supporters. These videos went on YouTube. They were usually about 7 to 10 minutes long, which is long. They went into detail about campaign strategy. They weren't fascinating probably to most people, but to our supporters, they were fascinating because our supporters were hungry to find out what's the next big thing on the campaign. And David Plouffe was telling them before telling the media. And a lot of people said, this is a strange thing to do. David Plouffe is giving away Obama's next steps of his campaign strategy. John McCain's campaign is going to benefit from that because, it's like if you're playing chess with somebody and I were to tell you, if I was playing chess with you and I said, so on my next move, I'm going to move my rook here, and then the one after that, I'm going to move my pawn there, right? You don't give away your strategy in advance. But David Plouffe said, you know what? I'm willing to give away some of my strategy in advance. And I'm willing to maybe lose one of these small chess games because I'm playing a bigger chess game. I'm building deep relationships with our supporters. I am showing them that I value them. I'm building trust with them. And every time he did one of these videos, we would see our donations skyrocket. We would see the number of people volunteering skyrocket. So it made a big difference. And by the way, this was shot not with a fancy video camera, and clearly it was not in a studio. This was shot in his office. He didn't even bother to clean up. It's messy. There's papers all over the place. We didn't have good lighting. We didn't have good microphones. We shot it on a laptop with the little camera on the laptop. And we did it that way deliberately because we wanted it to feel like it was an intimate Skype conversation with supporters, like they were having a web chat with him. as opposed to, a fancy official address. It's also very important that you listen to your supporters that you're trying to mobilize. Sometimes they are going to be frustrated with what you're doing. And if you ignore them, that's a sign that you don't really respect them. So don't shy away from criticism among your supporters that you're trying to engage in your movement. Address the criticism. During the campaign, Obama did something that really angered a lot of our supporters. He changed his mind about a policy that would have allowed the U.S. government to have more power to listen in on phone calls of citizens. Obama made the decision because he thought it was an important national security strategy, anti-terrorism strategy, but to a lot of our supporters, it felt like it was a violation of privacy rights, the government having more power to listen in on phone calls. So they were very, very, very angry at him. And they created a group on myBarackObama.com. And the group demanded that Obama change his policy on spying, or they were going to take back their donations that they had already donated. They were demanding back their donations. This group grew to 20,000 people. And it wasn't like there were 20,000 people having a march out on the streets somewhere far away from the campaign office. It wasn't like they were having 20,000 people having a march in front of our campaign office. This was like 20,000 people having a march inside our campaign office, because they were doing it on myBarackObama.com. They were doing it on our actual website, right? We had made a choice to let anybody who wanted to create an account on our website. Now, this was a decision that was very controversial. No other campaign would do that, because they said, well, if you allow that to happen, maybe they'll say negative things about Obama. And we said, you know what? That's a risk that we're willing to take. We want to give our supporters the chance to have a voice and to really feel like they're a part of our community. And this is what happened. 20,000 people angrily demanded their money back. Now, we had a decision to make. We could have deleted that group. There was a big red delete button that I had access to, and it was maybe a little tempting to press it. But we never did that. We knew that it would be a bad idea for two reasons. One, you don't delete things on the internet. It's just, you should never do that. When you try to delete something on the internet, it will spring back up 10 times bigger. There's a famous example of this. The celebrity Barbra Streisand tried to sue a blogger who had taken a photo of her house and put it on his website. And she said, take it down immediately or I'm going to sue you. This is my private house and I don't want people seeing this on the internet. So the blogger took it down, but guess what happened? The next day, 1,000 other bloggers had reposted the picture. And then millions of people saw Barbra Streisand's house. So it backfired big time. That's called the Streisand effect. You can read more about it on Wikipedia. But the second reason why we didn't delete it is because it would have gone against all of the principles that we were preaching on the campaign. Right? We were trying to create a bottom-up, democratic, open campaign. And if we had deleted criticism, that would have betrayed everything that we were fighting for. So we went to Obama, and we said, and we explained what happened. And Obama responded. And he didn't just say to one of his staff members, yeah, just write something quickly and sign my name on it, which is what a lot of politicians do. He wrote it himself. And what he said was, I hear you. Now, I'm not going to change my mind, but I hear you. I understand what your criticisms are. Here's why I made my independent decision to support this new policy. And he gave all of his reasons. And he said, you know what? I'm not going to change my mind, but I want to tell you something. The fact that you criticized me and the fact that you were able to organize 20,000 people to criticize me on my own website made me so proud of this movement.